Hello friends. Oh. Hello friends. Welcome back to MargaretsPearlsTV channel. I hope you're keeping well. This is a channel dedicated to faith, lifestyles and social issues. If you're new here, here is a warm welcome from me to you. We have been looking at domestic violence and abuse experienced by men, women, children, persons living with disabilities and older people. Today, we're about to look at perpetrators of domestic violence and abuse. It sounds hard, doesn't it? But perpetrators also need help, particularly as domestic violence is reported to feature in most case reviews in England and Wales. I therefore feel it's pertinent to put it out there. In this episode, I will define a perpetrator, how they are determined or identified, statistics, and various interventions. Who then is a perpetrator? A domestic violence and abuse perpetrator is a male or female who has used violence, abuse, and controlling behaviors in relationships. How then do we determine who a perpetrator is? To identify who is doing what to whom, or consequences of such action in what context, in order to understand who is the perpetrator and who is the victim, and customize responses appropriately, workers need to look at as many of the following as possible. Firstly, are there injuries and whether they could have been caused in self-defense? Secondly, are there evidence of fear and coercive control? Thirdly, is there a history of violence and threats? Fourthly, what are the contexts in which incidents took place? Now let's look at useful questions to seek information. And this could include asking the person, are you afraid of what your partner will do to you or the children if you make certain decisions or do certain things? Do you feel free to live your life in the way you choose? Do you feel like you're frequently walking on eggshells? Do you change what you do because you're fearful of your partner's reactions to you? Do you have equal access to finances? Have you been injured? Or have you ever felt you had to use violence to defend yourself or your children? The responses to these questions would help agencies determine the existence of a perpetrator in a relationship and within a home environment. In 2018 in England and Wales, perpetrators abused more than 1.9 million adults, and they are often excluded from the work with victims. In addition, statistically, a quarter of perpetrators are repeat offenders, and some have several victims, with on average 2 women killed every week, over 60 children killed in a year, and slightly over 80 men are known to have been killed in England and Wales in a particular year. Statistically, there are approximately 400,000 perpetrators, causing high, including murder, and medium levels of harm across England and Wales. And yet, only a tiny percentage of these, fewer than 1%, get a specialized intervention that might prevent future abusive behavior. Perpetrators whose victims are assessed at lower levels of risk are even less likely to get a specialist intervention, but have to take responsibility for their actions. So whether you are receiving any form of intervention or not, the key to actually getting help as a perpetrator is taking responsibility for your actions as somebody who is causing another person a form of harm or injury or abuse or domestic violence. Now let us look at interventions available. And the importance of early intervention cannot be overemphasized. There are clear pathways into perpetrator interventions, from sentencing, multi-agency forums, police, probation, social services, health services including drug, alcohol and mental health services, voluntary sector services such as helplines and self-referrals. Often, to access services, there would be an initial assessment to determine if the perpetrator will benefit from structured or individual and group work, or perhaps combination of both, and tailored programs based on perpetrators' needs. The perpetrators need to recognize their behavior as abusive and reflect on the impact of their behavior. There's also the disrupt approaches, which is needed for perpetrators who are not willing to cooperate or whose abuse are continuing despite behavior change work. Disrupt work consists of multi-agency efforts to manage risks to victims and survivors of domestic violence and abuse. Agencies share information and are responsive to the dangers perpetrators pose and are ready to prevent or react to any changes that might increase risk. The work with perpetrators have to be carefully planned and managed in such a way to increase the safety and well-being of the victims, including their children, and not place the victim at further risk of harm as they remain under the control of the person causing them harm. Fundamentally, everybody has the capacity to change, and massive changes have occurred on these programs. In conclusion of this series, abuse is not acceptable. Reporting abuse and safeguarding others remains everyone's business. I hope the information in this abuse series have been useful in the here and now and in the future. If you have been affected by any aspect of this series, please seek help either from your doctor or other agencies. Until we meet again, please take care of yourself and each other, and please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much for your time, and thank you also for listening. Bye for now.